Never changed oil in your car before, it's actually a pretty easy process. If you're experienced at this, stick around, you might learn a couple tips and techniques about the whole process. This is a 4-cylinder engine that we're going to be doing it on, but I'm guessing a 6-cylinder is going to be pretty much the same process here. Let's get started. Tools you're going to need, obviously a oil filter, a 6-point box end wrench, and I'll show you why in a few minutes. A special oil filter remover. I had to buy this thing online. I think it was like 10 or 12 bucks or so. And of course, a nice handy dandy wrench to fit that. My favorite, safety glasses, gloves, and of course, some oil. Some tools you're going to need for the heavy lifting. Obviously some jack stands, a jack, oil pan, and a filter. I do not recommend using the jack that came with your car to jack up your car. You might be able to use that, but make sure you have some jack stands. You're going to be crawling up underneath your car. The last thing you want is this thing falling on top of you. So do it and do it right. Get some jack stands and jack the car up and secure it properly with some nice jack stands. All right, now that the car is secure up in the air, notice I've got some jack stands here. Here's the point where I actually jacked the car up. You probably can't see it, but it says cross member here. There is the oil drain plug. See if I can point to it. Right there, and there is your oil filter. This isn't your standard oil filter that you've seen the old kind with a big metal wrap around it. It's actually a canister. You have to take this whole thing off here, take the paper cartridge filter out, and pop the new one back in. It's pretty easy to do. Let me show you how. There's a small plug here, a drain plug. Inside the kit, I'll show you in just a few minutes there. If you back this plug out, you can actually drain the oil out of the oil canister before you take it off. I am not going to do that. It doesn't make that much of a mess. I put the drain pan underneath it anyway, so it's no big deal. Let me show you what the oil filter looks like. All right, inside of our oil filter that we bought, here's the actual cartridge itself, and a kit that comes with an O-ring and a small little plastic drain plug that goes up inside the canister. Helps you drain the oil out of the canister first. I'm not going to use any of this stuff here. I'm just going to take the oil canister off, take the old cartridge filter out, put the new one back in and replace it. I may change the O-ring here. I'll show you a nice little trick on how to get the old one off. First, let's go ahead and drain the oil. It's probably self-explanatory here, but just put the oil pan underneath the oil drain plug, back the drain plug out, and just let it all drain out naturally. While that's draining out, let me show you the main point for a 6-point box wrench that I'm using. See, I've got 6 points obviously on the drain plug, and this gives you a nice tight fit around that. They sell these also in 12 points. It gives you a lot more degrees of freedom here to get the bolt out in tight spaces. However, more points, less surface area. Less surface area, you have a chance of rounding off these little points here. If you round that off, you're in deep trouble on trying to get that off because you've got no way to get a good grip on it. This is a 14mm wrench. If you don't have one, go to America's favorite tool store and get you one. Next, I'm going to take off the oil cap, or I guess the oil canister, using my special remover here and a 5/16 inch socket to get a good grip on this. I can pop it off. Let me take it off. I'll bring it to the workbench and I'll show you exactly what it looks like so we have a little bit better light over here. As you can see, the wrench here just pops over the cartridge, and use your handy dandy wrench to pop this whole thing off. Here's the old cartridge, and just simply replace that with the new one, and that part is done. Now there is an O-ring that comes with this kit. If you wish to replace that, don't ever dig a screwdriver under there to try to get the O-ring off, or use a razor knife or something. It's quite simple. Just take a little rag and pop it around, and if you just get enough friction on there, you can slide the whole thing off. I'm not going to replace this O-ring here. It's in very good shape, and my luck is some dirt or something will get lodged up underneath there, and it will deem it ineffective. So also in this kit is a small little plastic drain plug. If you look on the very bottom, if you take that whole large assembly or that little plug off there, this thing simply screws up in there, and oil comes dripping out of that. I just simply take this whole thing, pop it off, and just carefully dump it upside down inside of my oil drain pan, and it seems to work just fine. It may be a little bit messier than using this thing, but it's so much work here to get the oil out of here, just not worth it to me. We're going to go ahead and put this back in. You can see this is kind of spring loaded here. We're going to replace this. and tighten it down, but I'm not going to tighten it down super tight, otherwise I will never get this thing back off. And put the oil back in. Now that the oil is drained, I'm going to put the drain plug back on. Make sure that plastic or rubber seal is on the bolt before you replace it. If for some reason this breaks, you lose it, and you have no way to replace that, what we used to do in the old days is wrap some string around that, like yarn or some kind of string, put that up, and that string makes a seal there. It's only temporary. Go get yourself a rubber one before you make it permanent, but that's the way that you can replace that temporarily. Also, if you decide you get the bolt in there and the oil is dripping out because you realize that is replaced or missing, back the bolt out a little bit, wrap some string around there, and put it back up into place before, so you can drive your car to a dealership and get yourself the little rubber seal that needs to go in there. Last but not least, now that you have the drain cap on, the oil filter back in, time to fill it up with 4.7 quarts. Again, this is a 4-cylinder. The quantity is going to matter depending on your engine size. So read your owner's manual, make sure you use the correct oil. Like I said earlier, the owner's manual says to use 0W20, and that's what we're putting back in it, full synthetic. The hardest part of this job here was two things. One is finding this oil here. I guess the stores haven't caught up to the requirements of the most popular car in America yet, and getting the canister filter off. Somebody who put it on last time used a lot of torque when they put the filter on, and it was very, very tough getting off. But now that it's back on and I didn't use as much force, it should be much easier to get off next time. Let's go ahead and fill this up. Okay, one more crucial step in this whole process here, and that's to dispose of your old oil properly. Please do not just dump this in the ground. Do your part, save the environment, and just put it back in the old oil can. Most auto parts stores take that. Some cities actually, if you put old oil out by the side of the street in the cans, they'll take it for you. So help keep the environment clean. And don't forget to update your owner's manual on the date, time, the type of oil that you used. Thanks for watching, folks, and don't forget to comment.